Good morning, everyone. It's Miss Virginie. I hope you're all doing well and we all miss you. Today we're going to be going over fractions and decimals, and our objective for today is, while completing the Chapter 5 and 6 quiz, the students will recall and apply the skills learned in these chapters and successfully complete 8 out of 10 questions. Our central question for today is, which strategies have we learned in Chapters 5 and 6 that can be applied to solve problems using fractions and decimals? So what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to be going over a practice problem that's similar to your quiz problem. Okay, and I'm going to try and keep this as simple as possible for you. So our reminder for dividing is, when you divide, you need to divide, multiply, subtract, and then bring down. And that's going to be our first couple questions. Remember, divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. Okay, so here's our example problem. Dana has 175 cups of sugar to make 50 cupcakes. How many cups of sugar go into each cupcake? Okay, so we know that Dana has 175 cups of sugar. She needs to make 50 cupcakes. And what we want to find out is how many are going to be in each cupcake. So we know that if we have 175 cups of sugar, our 175 is going to go under our little house here, and we're dividing it by 50 cupcakes. So I started doing some side work here because we know that 50 does not go into 17 or 1, so we need to put 50 into 175. So we know 50 times 2 is 100. So we try 50 times 3 for our side work. We're going to get 150. Okay, so when we use our 150, we're going to put our 3, okay, that we got right above the 5. Okay, and then we're going to put our 150 down here. Okay, so we divide, we multiply to get our 150. Now we subtract. Okay, 5 minus 0 is 5. 7 minus 5 is 2. 1 minus 1 is 0. So now what we know is we had to put our 3 above our 5 because we knew 50 couldn't go into 1, 50 couldn't go into 17. Okay, once you get to this point, we know that 50 cannot go into 25, but we want to keep going. So what we're going to do is you're going to add a decimal here, okay, and you're going to bring that decimal up. Once you add that decimal, what you're going to do is you're going to add a 0. After we subtract, we know our last step is to bring down. So you're going to bring that 0 down here. Okay? So now, what we have instead of 50 into 25, we have 50. How many times can 50 go into 250? Okay, so let's start with 5. 5 is a number we like to start with. We know that 50 times 3 is 150. Let's try 50 times 5. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 5 is 25. Make sure you do your side work. Okay, now 50 times 5 we know is 250, which is exactly what we needed. Now we subtract. Okay, we need to make sure we add our 5 up here. We divide, now we multiply, now we subtract. 0 minus 0 is 0, 5 minus 5 is 5, 2 minus 2 is 0. So now that we zeroed out, our answer would be 3.5. Okay, so when you do this problem, don't forget, when you can't go any further, we knew that 50 could not go into 25. What we did was we added our decimal here so that we could add a 0. Don't forget then, we move our decimal straight up. Okay, let's look at the problem number 1 on our quiz that is very similar to this. After I read to you problem number 1, please pause the video, complete problem number 1, and then play the video again. So here is your quiz question. Mike has 125 feet of yarn to make 100 bracelets. He uses the same amount of yarn for each bracelet. How much yarn does he use to make just one bracelet? So what you're paying attention to here is that Mike has 125 feet of yarn. He needs to make 100 bracelets. So we're setting that problem up just the same. You're putting your 125 feet of yarn under here, and we're dividing it by the 100 bracelets, okay? And we want to find out how much is in one bracelet. So at this time, please pause your video and complete question number 1. Okay, we're going to move on to number 2. Here is your reminder for question number 2. Remember to place your decimal. Here's our example problem for number 2. Very similar to number 1, but it's not a word problem. Okay. What we're going to do here is we're going to do our division. Remember, we divide, we multiply, we subtract, and we bring down. And we don't want to forget to place our decimal. Okay, how many times, well, let's say, can 2, we can go into 21. Okay, we know that 2 goes into 21 10 times because 2 times 10 is 20. So let's write our 10. Okay, now what you're going to do is remember, place your decimal. Okay, 2 times 10, we divided, now we multiply, is 20. Now we subtract. 1 minus 0, 1. 2 minus 2 is 0. Okay, now we're going to bring down. We know that 2 cannot go into 1. We're going to bring down our 6. Okay, how many times can 2 go into 16? We know that 2 times 8 is 16. So we divided. Now we multiply. 2 times 8 is 16. Now we subtract. 6 minus 6, 0. 1 minus 1 is 0. So now our final answer is going to be 10.8. So where I could see that we need to focus on for this is we know to divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down, but make sure you remember to place your decimal in the correct place. Please look at number 2 on your quiz. So this is number 2 on your quiz. I've already set it up here. Okay, remember to place your decimal right above. Pause the video at this time and complete question number 2. Okay, for question number 3, I did not do an example problem because it's the same as the past 2, but I'm going to read it to you. I have 16.2 pounds of strawberries that I will share equally with my 12 friends. How many pounds will each friend get? So what you're paying attention to here is I have 16.2 pounds of strawberries. That's where that's going to go. I've set it up for you here. Those strawberries are getting divided with between 12 friends. And we're looking to find out how much will each friend get. So it's going to be the same process as the past two problems. Don't forget, divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. Remember also to place your decimal in the correct place. At this time, pause the video, complete number 3. When you are finished, play the video, and we'll move on to number 4. Number 4. Here is an example problem for number 4. Write equivalent fractions with common denominators. So for this, you're going to do our equal, equal, line, line. Okay? Our first step to finding the common denominator is we need to look for the least common multiple. So we line up 6 and 9. We first start with our multiples of 6. 6, 12, 18. Then we start with our multiples of 9. 9, 18. We know our least common multiple is going to be 18. Okay. Now we continue. 9 times 2 is 18. Whatever you multiply by the bottom, you're going to multiply by the top. 4 times 2 is 8. 6 times 3 is 18. 1 times 3 is 3. And there is going to be your final answer. 3/18 and 8/18. At this time, we're going to go on to our quiz question number 4. So please look at your quiz. And I have it set up for you here. Question number 4. Write equivalent fractions with common denominators. Your fractions are 2/3 and 3/4. So this is how you're going to be setting it up. 2/3, equal, equal, line, line, and 3/4. First step, finding your least common multiple. I wrote the multiples down here. 3, 6, 9, 12, 4, 8, 12. You're going to put your least common multiple on the bottom and continue the process. Whatever you multiply by the bottom, you multiply by the top. At this time, pause the video, complete question number 4, and then we will move on to question number 5. Okay, so question number 5 is round to the nearest benchmark 3/8. So I made a number line for you to look at. So 3 and 1/8. So you're going to look at the number line. You're going to find 1/8. You're going to find that on the number line and see what it is closest to. Once you have found 1/8, you're going to round the 3 either up or down, or you're going to round your 1/8. So at this time, pause the video, use this number line to help you for number 5. Okay. Number 6 is going to be the same thing. You're going to round to the nearest benchmark 2 and 5/6. So you're going to find 5/6 on the number line, okay? And then you're going to round your whole number. What are you rounding your whole number to? Pause the video, and we're going to move on to number 7 after you've completed number 6. Okay, number 7's example problem. You're adding 1/2 plus 2/5. Okay, our step number 1 is going to be to find the least common multiple. Okay, so we know our least common multiple of 2 and 5 is going to be 10. The way we do that is we go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and for 5 we list our multiples 5, 10. We know 10 is the first number that's going to show up in common. Okay, so we've done our equal equal. Let's continue. We make a line, we make a line. Okay, now we know our denominator is going to be 10. 5 times what is 10? We know that's 2. Whatever we do by the bottom, we do to the top. 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, 2 times what is 10? We know 2 times 5 is 10. Whatever we do on the bottom, we do on the top. 1 times 5 is 5. Okay, so now we ended up with 5/10 over 4/10. What we're doing is we're adding them together. Our denominator is going to stay the same. We add up 5 plus 4, which we know is 9. Okay, so our final answer is going to be 9/10. Let's look at our quiz problem number 7. So on your quiz, I've set it up for you. The problem is 1/4 plus 1/3. I've listed out your multiples. Your multiples of 3 are going to be 3, 6, 9, 12. Your multiples of 4 are 4, 8, 12. What you're going to do now is continue the process. You're going to use your least common multiple as your denominator, and then you're going to, whatever you do to the bottom, you're going to do the same thing to the top. Keep your denominator the same and add up your numerators. At this time, pause the video, complete number 7, and then we will move on to number 8. Here is number 8's example problem. Okay, number 8's example problem is 5 1/5 plus 2 1/6. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we need to make our denominators the same. So we're going to do our equal, equal, line, line, line. Okay, now we need to figure out our least common multiple for 5 and 6. Let's list our multiples of 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Our multiples of 6 would be 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. We're just skip counting. Now we know our least common multiple that shows up is 30. So that's going to become our denominator. Okay. Now what you're going to do is same process. 6 times what gives us 30? We know 6 times 5 gives us 30. Whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top. 1 times 5 is 5. 5 times what gives us 30? 5 times 6 gives us 30. Whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top. 1 times 6 gives us 6. Okay. So now what we've ended up with is 6/30 over 5/30. Okay. Now, we cannot forget our whole numbers when we add. So, first thing you're going to do is we're going to add 5 plus 2 is 7. Now, we know that we're going to keep the denominators the same. Okay? And we're going to add our numerators. 6 plus 5 gives us 11 for our final answer of 7 and 11/30. Let's look at quiz problem number 8. Okay, this is the problem on your quiz. I've set it up for you here. 3 1/8 plus 1 2/6. We need to make them have common denominators. Okay, so we're going to do equal, equal, line, line. And the first step to finding that denominator is listing out your multiples. Okay, and I started that for you. So now you would continue to skip count until you found your denominator. At this time, pause the video, and then we will move on to number 9. After you've completed your problem, press play again. Okay, here is our example problem for number 9. So again, we are working with fractions, and we will be subtracting them this time. We're going to start out with the same process of finding the common denominator. So we need to do our equal, equal, line, line. We would list our multiples. We know 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Now let's do 7, 7, 14. So we know our common denominator is going to be 14. Okay, 7 times 2 gives us the 14. 6 times 2 gives us the 12. 2, how do we get to 14? Times 7. 1 times 7 is 7. Okay, so now what we've gotten so far is 7/14 minus 12/14. And we can't forget about our whole numbers, 5 and 3. Yes, 5 and 3. Okay, so what you're going to be doing now is we know that we cannot take away 12 if we only have 7. So we need to borrow. When you borrow with your fractions, okay, you're going to come over and borrow from your whole number. Your 5 becomes a 4. For a fraction, we cannot take just a 1 and bring it over here. So what you need to do is you need to take that 1 whole and turn it into a fraction using the same denominator, 14. So 14 over 14 would be 1 whole. So we took that 1 whole and we turned it into a fraction that has the same denominator, so it makes it easier for us to add that together. So now we take our 7/14 plus our 14/14, which is our whole that we took from over here. We borrowed, okay? That's going to give us 21 over 14. We added 14 plus 7 and kept our denominators the same. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take your 21 over 14 and we subtract that, because now that you have 21, you can take 12 away. You take that away from 12/14. When you do that, 21 minus 12, you're going to get 9. Okay? We keep our denominator the same. Now, don't forget to subtract your whole numbers. 4 minus 3 is 1. So your final answer is going to be 1 and 9 over 19/14. 9/14, I'm sorry. Okay, so now let's look at number 9 on the quiz. Here is number 9 on the quiz. Remember, you have to borrow from the 4 is my tip for you for this number. So remember, when you borrow from the 4, you need to turn that into a fraction and add it to wherever you needed it for borrowing. Okay, let's move on to pause your video at this time. complete number 9, and then we're moving on to number 10. So your reminder for number 10 is, remember to find the next term in a sequence. We need to find out the rule. So here's your example problem for number 10. Okay. What you're going to be doing here is we're going to be finding out, we need to do equal, equal, line, line to find out the common denominators to start. Just looking at this, we know our common denominator is going to be 16 because we're looking to find out the next term in the sequence. If you're looking for number, when we're looking at number 10, we're looking to find out the next term in the sequence. Okay, so we know our common denominator is going to be 16. Okay, 16 times 1 is 16. 3 times 1 is 16. Now we're going to go, 3 times 1 is 3. Now we're going to go to this one. 8 times 2 is 16. 1 times 2 is 2. 16 times 1 is 16. 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, so now what we're looking at here is we turn them so they all have the same common denominator. Let's look at our numerators. What's the rule here? What's the pattern? Our first numerator is 1. Our second numerator is 2. Our third numerator is 3. So we know that each time the numerator is plus 1. That would be our pattern. So our next number in our pattern, our next fraction in our pattern would be 4/16. Okay? Because we know each time our numerator increased by 1. Okay, let's look at problem number 10 on our quiz. You're looking to find out what is the rule between them. And to start out with that, you're going to find out what the common denominator is for these numbers. After that, you find out your numerators. Whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top, just like we did in the other problems. You find out your rule, and then you find out your next term in the sequence. All right, good luck on your quiz. If you need any help, you can reach us on Google Classroom. Have a good day.